that is role of biodiversity in ecological balance. First of all, I would like to introduce about what is the biodiversity. Biodiversity refers to the variety and variability of life on this earth. It is typically a measure of variations on the genetic, species, community or ecosystem level. The existence of a number of different kinds of animals and plants which together make a good and healthy environment. Terrestrial biodiversity is greater near the equator, which is the result of high primary productivity. Many species were formerly classified rare or endangered or threatened category. Generally, biodiversity is a variety of different living forms that residing in a particular area, particular habitats, particular ecosystem or on the geographical level. You can simply define it is a variety of different living beings on this earth. When we talk about the different levels of biodiversity, we will discuss about the three levels. First level is genetic biodiversity. In this, we can discuss about the genetic variations in the members of a same species or the genetic variations in the population of a same species. The second level of the biodiversity is species biodiversity. Range of species in a particular ecosystem or different type of species which is existing in a particular ecosystem, that is called species biodiversity, or you can say species richness. Next is community or ecosystem biodiversity. Variety of habitat types in a given region, the different living forms or different species that is residing in a particular habitat and their variation in the habitats in a particular region at particular geographical area or a local area or a national area, that is called the community oblique ecosystem biodiversity. In this biodiversity or different living beings or living forms, different living forms are very important for the ecological balance at they somehow related with each other and makes a food chain or food web. But there are some species which we can see that they are not directly important for the human beings or any other species. But when we study about them, there are some species that are very important in an indirect way because they determine the ability of large number of other species that is persisting in the community. If we can we have to protect these keystone species because the keystone species is a priority for conservation efforts, as the keystone species is lost from the conservation areas. Numerous other species that depending on these keystone species may be lost as well, because these species, if they are not directly important, they are indirectly, as some species have in the seed dispersal or pollinations of other important species. So keystone species, protection of their keystone species should be priority when we talk about the conservation efforts. Now there are different measurements for biodiversity. The first is alpha biodiversity. Number of species in a single community residing in a particular area, that is called alpha biodiversity. When we talk about the beta biodiversity, degree to which species composition changes along an environmental gradation, this is called beta biodiversity. When we talk about the gamma biodiversity, it is a very broad level. When we talk about the gamma biodiversity, it is the rate at which additional species are encountered as geographical replacement within a habitat type. When we go from one area to another area, when we go from one habitat type to another habitat type, the rate of species diversity change So we can studied under the heading of gamma diversity. That is a very broad and big thing. Basically, when we talk about the biodiversity, we should discuss about the importance of the biodiversity. The living forms that is existing on this earth, they are somehow directly or indirectly related with the development of the human beings, and they are the integral part of the biosphere. The species, they are located at the different trophic levels. They are linked together and to form a food chain, and these different food chains are further interlinking to form food web. If at any point, due to any undesirable changes, if any change occurs, it can disturb the whole of the food chain, ultimately whole food web, ultimately it can affect the whole ecosystem, and finally human being also affected. What are the main reason that can threats to the biodiversity conservation, or that can affect to the biodiversity status on this earth? The current scenario is that comes under the main heading that is called the direct threats. This is residential and commercial developments of human being that may affect to the biodiversity of any area. Energy production and mining. Today, a lot of pressure for the requirement of energy production, and this pressure somehow creates or affect to the biodiversity of particular area. Transportation and service corridors that also decrease or threatening to the biodiversity status. Biological resources and uses. We are using the different plants, animal products, and they somehow affecting to the biological resources, biodiversity. Environmental pollution, either it may be air pollution, water pollution, noise pollution, radioactive pollutions, or any type of pollution that you easily can say that it is an undesirable change in environment. It can affect to the biodiversity. Forest depletion, because a lot of animal species that is depending on the plants or forestry, and their whole life cycle complete in the forest, they suffer if we can cut the forest or forest depletion occurs. And the finally is climate change. If any change in our climate, it may also affect the biodiversity. There are some hotspots in whole of the world. There are 25 hotspots that are reported, and that increase up to 36. First of all, I would like to discuss about the hotspot. What is hotspot? They are the biogeographic region with significant levels of biodiversity that is threatened by human habitations. These are the region that is both a significant reservoir of biodiversity and is threatened with destructions. Basically, in India, we have four biodiversity hotspots: Eastern Himalaya, Western Ghat, and Andaman Nicobar, and we can discuss Eastern Himalaya as well as Western Himalaya and Western Ghat and Andaman Nicobar. These are the four main biodiversity hotspots, and the term biodiversity hotspots specifically refers to the 25 biologically rich around the world that have lost at least 70% of their habitat. That is called the biodiversity hotspot. So our priority to conserve the biodiversity, we have the two major conservation strategy. First is ex situ conservation, the second is in situ conservation. When we talk about the ex situ conservation, when we conserve the animals or plant outside their natural habitats, that is called ex situ conservation. There are so many examples through which we can easily understand, that is zoo, botanical garden, sperm bank, semen bank, pollen bank, germplasm bank, seed bank, etc. And the second strategy, in situ conservation, when we conserve the animal or plant on their or within their natural habitats, that is called in situ conservation. And the example of this in situ conservation is biosphere reserves, national parks, sanctuary, etc. So this is all about the what is biodiversity, what is the levels, what is the importance, and what are the conservation strategy, and what are the hotspot in all over the world and in all over the India. So thank you very much.